there's a bill in the Senate in North Carolina that's proposing that all wholesalers will have to become licensed real estate agents in order to practice wholesaling in North Carolina. So there's been a lot of talk about that this past week or so, on threads and things. Jasper, you said people have been blowing you up about it, and
Yeah.
it's kind of like outlawing wholesaling in a way, because if every wholesaler has to get a real estate license in order to do business, that's going to really shake things up
Yeah.
in a lot of ways. So we just thought we'd touch on it briefly. I know this is not a North Carolina podcast, so we don't want to go too deep into it. But I think the reason it's good to check in about it is, one, from the perspective of running a business, which is one of the things we talk about here. And almost every year in my business, there's been something that's come in and shaken things up, right? We had
Mhm.
our SMS account go down for multiple months one year, and this is a similar type of thing where this is coming in. It could totally shake everything up, and you have to be able to roll with the punches and adapt, and you know change your strategies sometimes in order to continue on with business. So,
Yeah.
Jasper, you were saying that you thought maybe some people are already heading for the hills or changing direction or going into a different career, a different job. And I think that happens when shakeups like this happen, right?
Yeah.
We've seen it with when the real estate market sort of crashed in 2008, 2009. A lot of people got out of the real estate business altogether. They're just like, this is not for me. I'm done. But the
Yeah.
people who stayed in, did really well. So I think from that perspective, and then the other perspective on it is that, what are there, 4 or 5 states now in the United States who have passed similar regulations where you have to be licensed in order to wholesale? And so it could be a national trend in the United States.
Mhm.
So even if it's not affecting your state right now, it's something to keep on your radar that
Yeah.
may be coming your way, or maybe even instituted nationwide, right? And
Yeah.
so for me, the things that come up are just like, to become a licensed real estate agent, and I've been a licensed real estate agent in California, and I've audited the course here in North Carolina. And Jasper, you did sort of an introduction to the course in North Carolina and decided you didn't want to do it, but
Yeah.
it's a lot. It's a lot to do. And I know real estate agents are going to say, oh, poor wholesalers, they have to take a test and get a license and stuff. But it's 75 hours of coursework, and then it's a lot of hours of study. You have to really dig down because it's a 2-inch thick book that you kind of have to master. And it's whatever, a two-hour exam with a couple hundred questions on it, with I think a 66% pass rate. So even if all the wholesalers decided to get their license and do their due diligence, 60 to 70% of them are going to actually pass the test the first time. And then
Yeah.
if you get your license, then you have to work underneath a broker for at least 2 years before you can become a standalone broker. And you have to give them a percentage of your whatever you're making, on deals, which, if you're running a business like Jasper and I are, with 6 or 8 or 10 team members, and then you have to give away a portion of your profit, it puts a crimp in your hose for sure.
Yeah.
And there are other implications that I see as far as how it's going to affect associated professions, because we bring a ton of revenue as wholesalers to people like closing attorneys, and a lot of the subcontractors we use, mobile notaries, and people who do soil scientists in the land space, or surveyors, people take photos, people who do home inspections, handymen who do repairs. And that's not even to mention the flippers and the builders who rely on us for deals. And, not only that, but we do have a lot of real estate agents that we work with who make money because of their association with us. So even if realtors are trying to target wholesalers and take us down, and I'm not saying that's what's happening, but they might be, some of the realtors are going to be hurt by that too. So,
Yeah.
I mean, those are some of my general thoughts about it. I think that the other thing I would say, and I'll turn it over to you, Jasper, for your thoughts, but is just like, real estate is hard whether you have a real estate license or don't have a real estate license. And the people who succeed and sustain in the business are people who are professional and ethical, whether they're wholesalers or real estate agents. And I think there's a perception that wholesalers are unethical, and I think a few bad apples have spoiled it for the rest of the wholesalers. but most wholesalers who are sticking with it for a longer period of time have built up a solid business, operate ethically, operate professionally, have built, a buyer list and all these things. And there's a huge attrition rate with realtors and with wholesalers. Realtors, like 75 or 80% of people fall out in the first few years. Same thing with wholesaling, right? So it's hard either way you go. And wholesalers are not unprofessional because they don't get a real estate license. They are professional if they're sticking with the business. And
Yeah.
I don't think slapping a real estate license on a wholesaler is going to change that much or forcing us to do that. So anyway, those are my thoughts. Do you have any thoughts on top of that?
Yeah, I mean, it's a good discussion. I mean, I don't have anything really positive to say about the bill and stuff, but I don't need to complain about that. But I mean, as far as action that people can take, there's, like you said, there's the majority of the country is still open, for wholesaling right now. It does seem like that this is being pushed by the Realtors Association. Doesn't seem like it. It's definitely what's happening, but they're going to try to ban it nationwide. I don't know how long that's going to take, but I think also on the opposing side of things, I know that Jerry Norton, Pace Mortgage, Danergy, all the big names in our space are trying to form a national wholesale association to be the opposite end of the spectrum. And so, hopefully that'll happen. And I would definitely support them if they do that. But for the time being, you can definitely virtually wholesale anywhere in America that is not illegalized. I think it's like 5 or 6 states right now that are pushing to legalize it. And every state is different. And so I've only read into this a little bit and done some research on ChatGPT, but every state that has passed this law has done it a little bit differently. And so it sounds like to me, West Virginia and South Carolina are the most like intense, in Pennsylvania. Those three are the most intense, where they're just like completely banning all wholesaling actions. It sounds like North Carolina is trying to put us under the realtor umbrella so that they can control us then. It sounds like that's their approach. And so, yeah, but I mean, what can other people do right now? I mean, first of all, in those states, if you can find a way to continue to do business, like we said, I think a lot of people are going to be leaving those states. So if you can find a way to either get licensed, or maybe there's another way to around it, maybe doing double closings or just doing flips yourself, there will probably be more opportunity in those states is my point.
Commercial is another one too. There's no language about commercial in the bill at this point. It's all
Yeah.
residential. It
Yeah.
says it defines residential property wholesaling to include soliciting homeowners for purchase contracts of their property unless it will be used as a soliciting party's residence, which is very, very strict, which means even builders or flippers cannot directly contact any homeowner unless they're going through a realtor, because
Yeah.
unless it's your primary residence, you can't contact. So it basically does away with all the marketing that we're doing or anybody's
Yeah.
doing. And so the only way you'd be able to market, because technically a loophole that people are seeing right now is that it only says residential property. So you could switch your operation to commercial, but that's a whole learning curve, right?
Yeah.
And even if you were to do double closings, you couldn't market for the properties legally.
Yeah.
So you'd have to buy your leads from somebody else, but they would have to be illegally marketing for leads. So, it's kind of a slippery slope there.
Yeah. Yeah. And so, I
You
mean,
you would basically only be able to buy on-market properties from realtors. So basically, the realtors are trying to control the entire flow of properties being sold.
yeah. And so, I mean, you pretty much explained it. I mean, if we're putting like on our, I don't know, if we're putting on a different hat and we're trying to like fight it or something, I think it's unconstitutional. There is something in our constitution that says that states can't interfere with contract law, because it's our right as Americans to go under contract with other Americans and do business with
Yeah.
each other. And so that is in the Constitution, but I did, do some research in ChatGPT, and they pretty much say that states can do whatever they want because who's going to really stop them? When the lobbying organizations are the ones running the state and the government anyways. And so, it's frustrating for me, but it's just that I can go down a rant for 20 minutes, but it's not going to solve anything. So I think the main thing is, I mean, if they stop us from marketing, they can't stop you from like branding yourself. And so I think people that have put out a brand, and I don't think they could ever stop you from like posting on social media about your brand or stuff like that. So I
Right.
think the big companies are going to benefit from this. Companies like Home Investors, the We Buy Ugly Houses people that people know already. I think companies like that are going to, see a huge influx of leads, because they can stop us from marketing, maybe, if they pass the thing, but they can't stop sellers from reaching out to us. So if sellers are filling out your information online or calling you because they know of you or something, they can't stop that. They might be able to stop like cold calling and texting and stuff.
Yeah, so you're talking about inbound marketing and SEO and things like that
Yeah.
to get business. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think they'll ever be able to stop that. So it might be shifting to those channels, which are more expensive, but like I don't think they could ever stop you from advertising on TV. Like that's another thing I don't think it could stop. So like stuff like that, I don't think would be able to.
It's funny that you say the home investors and we buy houses because it's called the we buy houses bill, right? Isn't that in the language of
Yeah,
the bill?
yeah,
I was just reading it. It's something in the language of the bill is like it's the we buy houses bill. So are they
yeah,
targeting home investors and New Western first, and then our smaller businesses after that? I don't know. But when you say
probably.
the
Yeah,
unconstitutional thing too, it really is like, and I won't harp on this because I mentioned it at the top, but we're small businesses. That's what America is built on, small business, right? And they're trying to shut down small businesses. And when you talk about, I'll just say one thing about ethics too, is like there are unethical real estate agents and people without integrity with real estate licenses just as
yeah,
well as there are wholesalers in the same boat, right? It's not the profession, it's the demographic, there are bad apples in every profession. So
yes,
say that because a lot of people that we deal with as wholesalers are like, I hate real estate agents. I've had a bad experience with them. I want to do, a cash sale with somebody else. And so
yeah,
it's not just one sided. And
and
I don't
like
want to totally make this a two-sided thing, but it feels that way a little
yeah.
bit.
Yeah, well, I mean, we're on one side of the fence, and we think it's the right side, or I think it's the right side. I'll speak for myself, but realtors think that we're all bad, and so that's fine. That's their right. Everyone has a right to have an opinion. But one
And
thing I've
not every
noticed,
realtor, let's just, not every realtor thinks wholesalers are bad because we partner with a lot of
yeah,
realtors and do great deals and great work with them. But it seems like a
yeah,
majority of realtors perceive our industry as bad or evil or unethical, things like that.
yeah, it seems like at least the higher up, whoever is running this commission or whatever, seems like that. But just from the data, like you shared, I'll wrap it soon, but um a lot of like I just want to echo your points because like this week I mentioned we got all those online leads, and the nice thing about pay per lead is you can refund the leads if they're not legit. But we got like I don't know, probably 10 leads that are listed on the market, and what that tells me is that these realtors are not doing their job. They're not serving these sellers.
Right.
So like I don't want to attack real estate agents, but it's just like what you said. It's like there's a reason that wholesalers exist, and there's a reason that I'm getting these leads in my business that are on the market because the realtors are not selling their houses. And
Yeah.
so it's like, I don't know, it's just frustrating for me to see someone try to monopolize an industry when that's what America is against as a country. So it's kind of weird.
And then they control the market. So that's when, yeah, it's like you said,
It's a
it's a
monopoly.
monopoly.
Yeah.
And then you
And
can just
then
be lazy because I
yeah,
was a licensed real estate agent and there are plenty of agents who are listing agents. And so what they're doing is they're going out and getting listings and they're just sitting and,
yeah. They just sit on
they're
the
not doing
market.
any work. They're
Yeah.
just get the listing. And then the sellers have this experience of, man, my property's been on the market 90 days. What's going on? And then the unethical piece of that is getting the listing at too high of a price and just waiting for the sellers to get frustrated so that you get price reduction, price reduction, price reduction, and you
Yeah.
have them under contract for 6 months, so they can't go anywhere. They just have to, anyway.
Yeah.
That's more of a rant. Sorry.
No, I mean it's just interesting because there's also a huge lawsuit right now going on against Google, and it's because federal government is suing Google because they think they monopolize internet. They think they have too much of a hold on search, on ads, on all that stuff. And now the real estate agent commission is doing the exact same thing to the real estate industry. They're trying to monopolize it. And
Yeah.
so, I mean, obviously, it makes sense if you're a real estate agent because, like you said, they're going to get 100% of the business. But it's frustrating to see them doing that when they're going after Google for the exact same thing. So it's kind of just weird to see that. So,
Yeah. It's a
yeah,
good point.
but yeah. But I mean, we'll
Well,
wrap it there. I mean, I don't know if that's helpful for anyone, but basically the point is, do good ethical business and you'll always have a place, whether it's real estate or another business. But I don't want to discourage people from getting into wholesaling. Like I don't want it to be that because there's still a huge country out there. And if America does ban it, I'm sure you can probably do it overseas. So there's always that.
yeah, and let's
But
just end with a few action steps too, because like you said, you can pivot, you can go into other states, and there are 40 odd states that you can still do wholesaling in at this point. And who
mm,
knows if other states will ever outlaw it. And we don't know that this bill will be passed in North Carolina. I mean, it's still on the table and it's still
yeah.
under review, and it could be passed in a modified form, or it could be not passed at all, or it could be tabled until another session, whatever. But if it
Hmm.
is passed, it gets goes into action in goes into effect in October of 2025. So you can go into other states, you can change your business model, but the marketing thing kind of puts a crimp in that. Um, and I mean, what other options are there, right? I mean, you go into other states, get a license is the other option. You can get
Yeah.
licensed, and then as far as what you can do right now is you can speak up, you can rally people, you can write to your congress people. It's pretty easy. I can put that stuff in the show notes to find your congressperson and just send them an email or a letter and just say, hey, I'm against this bill H797. I'm a professional. I do this. I run a business, and this is why I'm against it, or whatever. You can keep it brief, but the more that legislators hear voices in opposition, the more they're going to second guess actually voting in favor of this, and then even potentially, if they can't shoot it down, even modifying the language so it's not as strict or something. So that's
Yeah.
another action you can take. Anything else?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the most important. And I think that's why we included this is kind of just to raise awareness. Because if you're listening to this, thank you for listening to us, but also, you're interested in real estate investing and wholesaling, probably in particular. And so the more that we can, speak up against it, the more that we can continue having this awesome business, which is it's a great business, and it's changed my life. So
Yeah.
I would recommend, yeah, definitely speaking up like what you just said, and then also Jerry Norton, follow him on YouTube or Instagram or whatever, and just show your support for him because they are working on that. They obviously, most of those people live here in Arizona, and so they're starting with Arizona, but they do want to make a national wholesalers association. And I think that's the only way we can really fight this, So I would just show your support to those guys, publicly online, and hopefully that they'll, see that and push it out faster. So
Or if you're an activist, start a wholesalers association of North Carolina and let us know, and we'll join you.
yeah, that's
Because
true.
maybe
Yeah.
that's what we need to do is
Yeah.
start that, and
Yeah.
then have it be associated with Jerry Norton and those guys. Like if every state started one and then we all associate them all together, probably if you're going to do something like what those guys are doing in Arizona, you're going to need somebody to spearhead it in each state so that you can build a momentum and then join as a national organization.
Yeah, definitely.
But that is a way to combat it. So it's a great point.